Guess who got brands talking? Brandlive.co.za.
All right, back on attack. My name is Thando Mangaliso. Obviously, I do not fly solo. Brand Live radio station at the 27 boxes. Today we are discussing on the blueprint a lot of things, and I am with my beautiful wife, Vanya Mangaliso.
Welcome to the Fashion Blueprint, coming from the lush gardens of 27 Boxes, from the beautiful bohemian suburb of Melville. Happy to be with you. It was a great week. We love public holidays, but boy, are they so disruptive. We always get caught off guard, like, oh, another public holiday. Love it, loathe it.
No, but I think, you know what, as people who are in production, I think, you know that idea that we had that if there is a public holiday, I think the guys should work throughout and we give them a Saturday off. This thing of stopping working and getting, you know, it literally yesterday felt like a Monday again. We've got this huge order that we need to deliver at 1:30 in the next hour. And, you know, we lost so much momentum. And that's what being in fashion is about. It's about momentum and keeping the momentum going.
Well, when life gets in the way of life, significant holiday, great holiday.
Yeah.
21st of March, Sharpeville Day, an amazing day. And I think half the time we actually take it for granted that everyone knows what this holiday is about.
Tell me something. Why do they refer to it as Human Rights Day and not Sharpeville Day?
Somebody said to me, Happy Heritage Day.
I think it was me.
Oh, well, then you were the second person. No, the thing is, because the names have changed so much, people forget what these days were about. They forget the original names, let alone what the days were about. So anyway, it's called Human Rights Day, I suppose, because of what the people who sacrificed the day were about. It was really about fighting for basic human rights. And you know, fortunately, as a parent, you know, you have to, you are forced to live life as it's unfolding. You got to explain to the kids what, you know, you can't just assume that, you can't always assume that they were taught at school.
Right.
So, you know, we always have to teach them. And so you get really up close and personal with days like this. Human Rights Day, its biggest significance really day is the fact that in Sharpeville, close to 80 people passed away. It was a march that was led, you know, they were marching against past laws. It was a march that was led by PAC initiated and was led by Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe, another chapter on its own in our history. What's really significant about this man, I think, remember when we went to Robben Island and they showed us his cell. He was kept in isolation. So it was just a really sad story on what happened to him, but a great revolutionary. May his memory live forever. And so that was what the day was about. But coming back to today, the whole thing about days like this is these are very significant days, and we've said it's quite sad that, you know, with time people forget. We're having a joke with one guy in the elevator about like, oh, so which one is Dingan's Day? You know, we're joking, but it's really not a joke. And the whole thing is how do we remember these days in a fun way, in a memorable way? How do we commemorate them in a fun, memorable, and significant way without trivializing them? I mean, it's like you think of Bride. I don't want to get into it for too long, but if you think of the whole thing, the day that's called Bride Day, Heritage Day is called Bride Day. Yes, that's one aspect of South African life, but can you really reduce the whole day to Bride Day? Like if somebody
that not
came...
King Shaka's birthday? That particular
There we go. You see, there we go. People forget. The whole thing is, I think if somebody came from Brazil and found us chilling, having a public holiday and asked us, like, what's the significance of this day? And somebody said, it's Bride Day. Like, what is Bride? And then you explain, you slaughter meat and you an animal and you bride and you have a good time. Really, I think it's rather trivial. And I think that's what is the problem for me personally with just these names changing so much. But the most important thing is the fact that we do commemorate them, and how do we do it in a fun way?
I think more importantly,
in a memorable way, in a significant way.
Fun aside, I think there should also be a moment where, you know, we pause, because if you think about the significance of yesterday, like you said,
Yesterday.
close to 80 people. Sorry, day before yesterday, close to 80 people were slaughtered. But you know, if you think of how the Jews commemorate the Holocaust, I'm sure they celebrate in different ways. But there's always a moment where the whole country comes together. You know, whether it's a minute of silence,
Sure.
or you know, a lighting of a candle in the homes.
Yes, ritual.
You know,
we love ritual. I'm a person of ritual. I'm a creature of ritual. The whole thing is, how do you celebrate? You know, everyone has got 3 lives. There's a public life, or your work life. Then there's the private life. Then there's a secret life. So how do you celebrate it in all these 3 things? You know, we're lucky, like we work in fashion. Oh, well, this is our way of expression in a way. And so a day like that, we're likely to, we can brand the shop. We often like print a T-shirt, a
protest
cap.
T-shirts, yeah.
We can have fun with fashion, stimulate sales, while at the same time celebrating something significant. We've always done that. I mean, South Africa has a history of that. In fact, the expression that says got the T-shirt, it's got such a huge, it means so much, in the sense that if you think how you can say anything in a T-shirt. T-shirts are very important, and that's really the power of fashion, which is why we got into fashion. If you think about it, we got into fashion as a form of expression. And another thing, people long for change. If you woke up and you decide, you know what, I'm a new person, I want a whole new life. There are very few things about your life that you can actually wake up and you can't quickly change your house or your car, but guess what? Your look you can change. Fashion is a very accessible form of expression. Whether you're sending a message, you know what I mean, or you want to send a message to
That's a clear communicator.
It's
when
great
you dress,
like
when you
that.
dress in the morning, there's a certain message that you're sending,
whether you like it or not.
whether you like it or not.
Whether you're anti-fashion or pro-fashion.
And I remember
That's
the
your
game.
message.
Remember the game we used to play when we traveled internationally. You look at someone, and then, you try to figure out, where they're from, where they're going to, that sort of thing.
Yeah, because that's what fashion was about in the beginning. If you think about it, you could always tell a person's social status, like you say, even what they do for a living by what they're wearing,
what their background is.
It just makes life simpler. And I think we're going back to those days, actually, because life is just so complicated that things need to be clear.
So even the girls wearing mini skirts with crop tops, what message are they communicating? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
We get a lot of that in
It's
Santa.
fashion.
Aye.
So no, the whole thing is, how do you celebrate these days? Like we said, one way is through fashion. Whether as a family you have a moment where you say a prayer for the lost souls. I don't know, but I think if it means something to you, there has to be a way. Otherwise, these days they go by so passively. Like me, I dress up for every single occasion. If it's Valentine's Day, I dress up. I'll either be pink or red or white or something.
But you even dress up at home. I remember the one time you were
if
so
it's Christmas, I'll dress
you
up.
were so well dressed that even Mama, when she came to visit, she was like, "Where are you going to?" And you were like, "No, I'm actually staying at home." So that's quite interesting. But hold on, let's talk about the fashion stakes of the late 50s. That was a very interesting time. If you think of the sapphire town, the pleated skirts. Men really starting to wear suits. The whole Pantsula thing, as much as it exploded in the 70s and the 80s, but if you think of the origins of Pantsula.
Sure, it goes back to how a fashion influences popular culture and popular culture influences fashion. Right. But half the time, fashion is driven. Popular culture is driven by fashion. It's if you think of when we started out in this industry, like think of all the protest T-shirts, like the Stone Cherry T-shirts that were out there, how people could express what they were feeling. Daughter of the Soil, when you start to do those kinds of things. So you start to drive popular culture, but at the same time, you can capture the essence of what's happening. You know what I mean? So it's you look at hip hop, our influence, Well, we came from that generation of like Wu-Tang, we grew up in Wu-Tang.
Run DMC,
that inspiration, yeah.
NWA.
Yeah, how they had their own brands. I mean, today it's very common, but the whole thing, if you think of how those guys started, the whole story, the whole legend, how they would...
Protest music. It was protest music once again,
then it follows
from
into
the disenfranchised. I think more importantly, if you think of hip-hop, where it comes from, where its roots are from, how lively it was, how how at first, I'll never forget one of my music teachers coming back from the States, I think 1983, and he said, no, there's this whole genre called hip hop. And he was a classical music teacher, and he was like, no, but the interesting thing is this thing will go past, it'll fade, classical music will be with us forever. And you think now, 30 years later, 36 years later, the influence of hip hop and popular black culture on fashion, starting back in the day, I'll never forget the huge deal that Adidas did with Run DMC in popularizing,
Before there was Kanye West.
Yeah, and if you think of sportswear, 30 years ago, a pair of sneakers would have cost you 300 Rand in today's money. But, the influence of hip hop, moving, sportswear just from sportswear into fashion wear, that was very, very interesting as well. And also, it was the first time that there was a link between the artist and the people consuming the music, seeing them in normal clothes. If you think of, Diana Ross, the Jackson Fives, they were very well dressed, well groomed,
I can't say.
almost to a point where they were not that they were inaccessible, but it was just that next step. So with the whole influence of popular culture, the whole influence of hip hop, where a guy could wear a hoodie and he could wear a pair of Nike trainers, and that was seen as acceptable. I think what people forget is that it was the first time we saw people looking like ourselves singing to us, as opposed to the Commodores or Lionel Richie, who were I wouldn't say far off, but just just there was always that
I know
distance,
what you mean. I know what you mean.
in terms of the
Just
styling,
a different lifetime, I guess. Different access.
different access. Yeah.
It is exciting. Like you think of today, like how you take the Kardashians, if you're going to talk popular culture and fashion, how they've moved from being reality TV stars to these like fashion moguls. And that's really what popular culture is about, how it's, I suppose, at its peak. When you can start to because really when people they're buying your taste. They're buying what you are offering. They're buying a bit of you.
Also, how luxury brands, which were nowhere. You think of before P Diddy and them came. Think of Champagne, Louis Vuitton, even like your Bentleys. They were dying brands. But once these people started, featuring these things onto their videos, started influencing people. The way of thinking.
Who could forget Jay-Z's fight with Crystals? Then he signed a deal with Heineken, because then he, when they did that ad where he leaves the champers in the fridge and he goes for the beer, just to drive a point, and then P Diddy deciding out of all of that he's gonna go create his own vodka.
Yes,
Ciroc.
Ciroc.
So what's really amazing about it's just really a way of thinking, how we are never the same. A certain wave of I mean, they started with music, they then went into what do you call it?
Fashion.
Then they go into fashion. So
And
now they're going
movies
to
as
drinks.
well.
Movies. Well, now we can talk all day about Black Panther, how that has influenced things and how things will never be the same after this.
Yes.
The
thing I enjoyed the most about Black Panther was that there was a conscious move of all the people going to actually go watch the movie to be in some sort of African, where there was a print, where
even
there was
in
a
New
head
York,
wrap.
New York Fashion Week, the guests were all dressed in like African-inspired Wakanda vibes.
Wakanda Forever was the theme.
Which is
man.
exciting. I think also, the world is looking for something different. People have seen what they've seen what the West can do. We've also seen with Bollywood, like just a different take on life. And now I think people are ready for the next big thing. And Africa is that. And from a financial point of view, from a business point of view, Africa is still a gold mine. You think of the places that need movies in cinemas.
And stories that need to be told.
Most importantly,
ourselves.
the stories that still need to be told. So it's really exciting when you think of the opportunities, and I can't wait for the future.
And the thing I enjoyed about that Black Panther movie was everything was done from a position of strength. If you think of Wakanda was this mysterious place. Yes, it was in the jungle, but they were using very advanced technologies. And
shot in Durbs, by the way. Some of the footage is shot in Durban.
Yes.
So it was really great. Even the villain was South African. So it was really a great tribute. Really a great tribute to South Africa.
We'll be back in a flash, but we have to pay the bills. So see you on the other side of this advertisement break. Thank you very much for being with us, and stay hooked.
Thank you. I think
Have you ever thought about the power of social media? Social media has the power to make your business grow. Grow! Yeah. Why don't you let us manage your social media? Because our business is to see your business grow. Visit us at www.bstownmedia.co.za.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Brandlive.co.za is Thought Leadership Radio. It's a new way to communicate your brand, your value, and what we think about your industry. Be a leader, be a voice, and we will help you shape your industry. Our radio platform is for thought leaders who want to share insights, businesses who want to create value for their databases, organizations who want to control their message, for those that drive change. Make your brand come alive on brandlive.co.za. Harnessing the power of talk radio.
Brandlive.co.za.
In your face, all over the place. We're online 24/7. 24/7. You're listening to the hottest internet station.
Brand Live.
No doubt.
You're listening to brandlive.co.za.
Okay, done with the first part of the show. Coming back live and direct from the 27 boxes, brandlive.co.za. Hit us up on Twitter. Hit us up on Facebook. Yeah. Got people on our live Instagram page and our live Facebook page.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for joining us.
It's pretty dope.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Stubbs. Thank you, Sino. Thank you, Patsy. Thank you, Krabs.
Those are Facebook
Thank
friends.
you. Thank you, family.
Instagram friends.
Yes, no, thank you for joining us. As we said, we're talking fashion and popular culture. We were just talking about March 21, days like that. It's not the only one. There's June 16 coming up. There's May Day. How do you, as a family, celebrate it? If it's not a school day, because you know it's school day, they'll celebrate these things. But you know, as a parent and as we are, how do we make sure that it's fun, it's memorable, and it's significant? You know, people want to move on. And I think South Africans, you find the South Africans are still struggling with things of the past. So we are saying, as of today, how do you, in all our diversity, commemorate this day in our own way and, have fun? And as we said, us, we work in fashion. We can always do a T-shirt. And at home, we'll usually sit the kids down and explain to them what this day is about. Because that's, we can't just assume that they know. And, it's also part of our history. These are the exciting things. This is what makes us South African. May we not trivialize them. May we enjoy them. And may we have fun and make a bit of cash in the process. Have events. How do we have events? How do we have plays? How do we create theater to celebrate this day? So families, for instance, let artists make money. It's March 21. Let's do a Sharpeville play. You create work for artists. You are creating this. You are keeping the memory alive. And you are finding a memorable and a significant way for our kids. Because these are the things also that they learn in school. It's just a bit of learning for everyone. Things that bring us together and they remind us of how far we've come. So that we may also never take anything for granted, I think.
Word is bond, my baby.
To enjoy the fact that, wow, we've come from so far. And fortunately, at our age, it's also exciting because you're like, oh my God, the things we have seen, like, we've lived through 3 presidents. And 4? Oh, you counting Mutlanti? Yes, 4 presidents.
Never forget, Mutlanti was a president.
Sure. So we've lived through 4 presidents. like some of the people that have brought us these historical changes in our country are still alive. The other day, Vusi was reminding me that he took a picture with Linda Goodman. You know, we grew up seeing Linda Goodman galleries. Amazing, she's still alive. And this was somebody who dared put protest theatre on popular galleries in the bad old days. And you know, there are lots of people like that, like just history in the making. You think of somebody like Bishop Tutu. I mean, honestly, we are so lucky that he's still around, and you know, may he live for long, because he's like a link to another life.
No, Bishop Tutu is very significant, especially in our lives.
Yeah,
when we had to go to private school, he was one of the guys who put a lot of pressure on bishops and St. Cyprian's to let us in. And if you think about it, St. Cyprian's is a girls' school, but for a short period of time they accepted boys because they were the only private school in the Western Cape that was willing to accept black boys.
Well, black
and,
people, so
black
then they
people.
had to take the boys
And then,
too.
You know, they took us
Wow.
in. They no longer. It was a very short window period. I think it was about 4 or 5 years before, you know, the rest of the
So you
private
went to
schools
girls'
opened
school.
up. Yeah, I am a St.
Explain certain
Cyprian's
things.
boy. I'm a St. Cyprian's boy. I'm sorry to say it like that.
Yeah, you know, I mean, Bishop Tutu, long live.
Yeah.
There's just like so many amazing people who are like a part of our history, and they're like a dying, you know, not a dying breed, but yeah, you know, it's
But I think
it's
the
really
most
amazing.
the most
May we
important thing
love
is-
them and acknowledge them while they're still alive.
The most important thing is who are the heroes now? Who are the people putting their hands up now? Because remember, Bishop Tutu and them have had their time, and it is time for us to step in. I mean, it's about Dalong. You know, so that's the interesting thing.
Well-
but I suppose we're doing it with our fashion. You know, our thing. Not that it was a revolution, but it was a statement. It was significant, and it will be documented. in history.
Hey, Nix.
well.
Yeah, no, you know, I think we've all come to a conclusion that what was it, JFK who came to that conclusion? Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
Ish.
I think it has never been truer than today. First of all, you cannot you cannot hand yourself over to anyone. You know, you cannot depend. By that I mean you just cannot depend on the government or anything. You are the government. So basically you are depending on yourself. It's also about the power you have, the power to vote. You're not helpless. And therefore, because you have the power to vote, it puts you in control. So you can decide how things must go. And as I say, the worst illiterates in the world are the ones who tell themselves that they want nothing to do with politics. Because, you know, what happens in the end, you leave it to the idiots who will make decisions on
And
your
you'll
behalf.
continue commentating
So
and
get involved.
complaining from
It's
the
your
sidelines.
life. Do what you can. Well, can do if you know. Maybe do it. I mean, you know, it's not like we know it all. I know nothing. I'm merely asking questions and expressing an opinion that maybe we should get involved. Maybe we should go out there and take charge of you know, do the things that we can. You know, if everyone does their little bit, it all adds up. You know, it all adds up. I remember when I used to travel into when we used to travel into the continent a lot in the bad old days. Well, as in when I was still employed, it was fun. And when we used to go to the Congo, and we'd be like, oh my God, we're not coming back here. You guys are at war. They'd be like, no. You guys have to keep coming back. That's how the situation stays normal. You have to keep coming back until things come right. And the point behind that is if everybody does their part, everything comes right. You know, the whole comes together. So just do your part. Do what you can where you are. If you're the street sweeper, be the best street sweeper you can. If you're making clothes, be umtongi, the best. If whatever you're doing, if you're the data capturer, you know, let your data be flawless. If whatever you are, wherever you are, that is pure meditation and that's worship. That's a form of worship. Be the best that you can be where you are and everything will be fine.
Yep.
I think that's what we need. You know, we have a lot to look forward to. We've got a new president. People are positive. And I think, you know, let's build on that momentum. Let's see what good things can come into our country. You know, days like Human Rights Day are important. They must be celebrated. May they not be trivialized. And it's not about going out and spending too much money. It's really about making sure that we move together. We are comfortable with our history so we can build a better future. And yeah, let's have some fun. That's what it's about. We only have one life to live. And never forget that, especially on a Friday.
Oh, I know, Mimi. Well, you've just taken all the words out of my mouth, as per usual. I think, obviously, we're looking to wrap the show up now. Any more on popular culture and fashion? If you think of people like Beyonce, if you think of... actually, you know what I was thinking about the other day? Where have all the black groups gone? The boy
girls?
bands. Yeah, I know, I'm saying the boy bands, the girl bands.
Boys to Men. Well, I
Boys
suppose
to Men.
the world is so big and people are so bombarded with information, and the world is so global that we don't get to see as much as we should see. We get to be bombarded with the same information. And that's also the sad thing about globalization, in the sense that, a lot of the things have gotten lost, but it's also created massive opportunities.
Groups like Salt and Pepper. What happened to a group like...
I bet they're doing great things. You know how when we go to the States and then we're like, oh my God, you travel in like one little town and you see a poster, or big city.
No, I'm not talking about Salt and Pepper in particular.
No, I'm
but
just
how
saying all
come
those people.
there isn't a hot young girl band of, let's say, it's usually about 3 or 4. And also, if you think of...
Like a Destiny's Child?
Yeah, like a Destiny's Child. If you think
I
of
don't know.
Kool and the Gang, New Edition,
Yeah.
I'm just always amazed.
New Edition. Wow.
I'm always
Who
amazed.
could forget Barbie?
Yeah, I was watching Bobby Brown and Real Husbands of
Molo Mhlekazi.
Hollywood. So that was actually also quite interesting, watching Bobby Brown, remembering New Edition. You talk of fashion, you talk of trends, the hairstyles. And if you think of how the hairstyles have from the 80s and the 90s are back now, but not only are they back, but girls are cutting their hair the way that guys used to cut their hair.
Well, talking of
which I think is quite-
hip hop and popular culture, like the things that it has influenced, it was also amazing when we saw Dr. Dre buy Beats, because you think of how we said, first they were producing their own music, then they were, then it went into fashion, then they went into drinks. And if you read the Capitalist Nigger, some of the sections there was like, black people love music so much, but how come, we don't own any musical instruments, we're not creating? So it was nice when Dr. Dre bought into that. And
he sold it. I remember he sold Beats.
already.
Yeah.
Well, so now what's next? What's next? Well, what are we doing? Where's the next big thing? What are we Africans all about? What can we send to the world besides the music and our dancing?
I think Africans must, number one,
I think the fashion.
fashion, yes. I think we need to build a cell phone that comes from South Africa, from Africa. And I think we need to build a car. If you think about everyone, even in South America, they're building their own cars. Rations, as tough as things
think
were.
how quickly things have happened in India with cars.
Yeah,
eh?
yeah.
It's like literally they started the other day. Indians are making cars, and wow.
We drive cars, we consume cars.
We
but there's
build
not
a lot of
sing-
cars. I mean, a lot of the BMWs are
A
built
lot of the
in South Africa.
technologies here, but we've not been able to mass market or mass produce a car.
And we've got great infrastructure.
Yeah.
We've this is an amazing country. I think that's a good note to end off on. We love South Africa. We've got so much to look forward to, and I think what's really needed is for us to I think to be orchestrated like an orchestra, for things to be sufficient. When the machinery is sufficiently integrated, this is an incredible country. And
Now,
and
in
where
the end of the
that's-
day- in the
and
end-
for me, I remember the days when we had an agenda. I think obviously we're getting back to those days where there was a clear agenda. Everyone was like pulling in the same direction. And I think we're going towards the way we remember our role is, what is our role as South Africans? What is our place in the world, in Africa as Africans? And what is our role in the world as citizens of the globe? And I think if we can remember all those things, we'll be on our way. And
Yeah, because if you think about it, at the end of the day, we move away from what the media is saying. This country is fantastic. Everything works. I think as South Africans in the last 10 years, to be quite honest, we've become very negative with petty things. If you think of what is happening in the rest of the world, and I'm not even talking, Syria or Iraq, but just
Extremes.
just
Nothing
what's
funny
happening
about
in the
Syria.
what's happening
No,
in
I'm
the rest
just
of the
thinking
world.
of the extremes.
We live in a country, everything works, and it's up to ourselves. I think you touched on the point that even if you're a street sweeper, be the best street sweeper in the country. If you want things to happen for yourself, you want doors to open for yourself, for yourself, be the best in your position, and things will happen for you.
Like guys, even the negative things about this country, I think what they mean is We've got a room to improve. I suppose perfection is boring. You know, my kids are just the funniest people. The other day, they always put a different perspective to things. The other day, I don't know what we were talking about. We were talking about we're talking about violence or crime or something. But the whole thing, they were like, so what is on the news bulletins in those boring countries? Like, oh, you mean those boring countries? Oh, they asked me what my favorite countries are. I said, well, you know, I like countries for different reasons. Obviously, my country's still the favorite. And I said, you know, like maybe a country like Switzerland or Norway, the way they run, I'd like to see closer. They're like, oh, you mean those boring countries? I was like, what do you mean? They're like, well, they're so perfectly run that nothing ever goes wrong. So then they were like, I wonder what they talk about on the news, because you can imagine. Like
They talk about their pensions. I remember going to Holland and, yeah, people was talking about their pensions. But anyway, guys, look, you know, we need to do this again next week. We're trying to push for the show to be an hour long. That'll happen soon, hopefully.
No, if we can, yeah, like
If more people can like our page. And just like my wife said, just go be the best person that you can be. Live the life that you want to be now. You know, there's no postponing. We're all getting older. And the older we get, the wiser we get, the better we become at what we do. Thank you.
Thank you. See you next week.